Ark and Halo are more similar than you think. Since recent maps in the dinosaur survival genre have seen us adorn a tech-based path of space travel, there's been an irking feeling of something just a bit close to the wire that we need to talk about. You're right kids, it's Ross Clark and welcome to 10 reasons why Ark reminds you of Halo. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share around and let's get into it. So straight into one of the most obvious ones that you've probably already noticed. Since the arrival of tech armor, you can't help but feel it's a nod to a certain green chief. More so of course if you simply paint that armor. And incredibly close when acquiring that exosuit offered in Genesis Part 2, blending the lines between a Spartan and Terran federations. Since the arrival of Genesis Part 2, Ark's protagonist Helena Walker, who we followed words of wisdom written within each Explorer note, in part became our holographic guide filled with advice but mostly trolls as we braved the rest of the storyline. Halo also has a female speaking holographic guide you might know, Cortana, accompanying you on your journey throughout, being as pivotal to the plot as the Homo Deus Ozzy, and lest we forget 343 Guilty Spark. Perhaps a bit looser than most on the list, it can't be argued the model and initial feel of jumping into an ATV in Ark is at the least reminiscent of a certain vehicle in Halo, the very iconic Warthog. Yes, the latter certainly drives a league better and offers a mounted minigun in its OG model, and since its addition the ATV bizarrely lost the support and development it desired, being an uncontrollable meme for the most part, but that iconic third-person slip and slide can't be ignored. And speaking of vehicles, there's one you'd not think otherwise until you slap on a saddle and go aerial acrobat crazy with one of Ark's most contested flyers, with a look and roll triggering a recall of something similar in Halo, the Banshee, offering the same air spins, blue hueish thruster fire and air combat feeling. It's a wonder why this hasn't been modded yet. Jumping into the scenery now with a few nods if you looked much closer. An obvious one is the endgame area of Ark's endgame, Rockwell's proliferation, or innards to the more recognising. An overridden ship area of flesh, eyes and the odd questionable sphincter, full of creatures spawning right from the gross bowels of Rockwell, and spookily similar to a Halo enemy, the Flood. Again, swallowing up technological marvels to nest their fleshy existence, swarming with equally fleshy substances and spawning right out of its chewy centre too. Not too apparent until you beat the end of Ark, or perhaps on Genesis Part 1, the colony ship you reside in the finale is a ring, 2 rings in fact, taking our people to places unknown. It's no super weapon, but combined with other elements in the game, you'll be pressed to not at least let it remind you of a similar looking super weapon from the game that's literally named after it, the Halo Array, constructed by another ancient race and being in all shapes and forms in both games a circular centerpiece of narrative and exploration. Reversing the roles a little now, or maybe a direct inspiration for Ark's very existence. The Halo arrays began with massive Forerunner installations in space, built to preserve the numerous species and provide research facility homes. These were indeed named exactly that, Arks. Now, to not get into the meaning of the word, the use alone strikes a big resemblance to the worlds we survive in the game. Not quite the dome-looking havens we know, it certainly begs to wonder how much this inspired the concept for the survival game we play today. And now we're getting into some real crossover. Gareth Coker, whom I hope you've heard of if you play Ark, and if not, you really should, being the game's primary composer, offering one of the biggest undeniable draws, its music, many of which we explored in great detail in a previous vid, which is worth checking out, but all mesmerisingly delivered and capturing our ears in a trance-like state as the core game consumes us. Music is without question a fundamental requirement of video games, so it's not least surprising but certainly thought-provoking that Mr. Coker has developed his compositions to collaborated delivery in the latest offering of Halo. With scores incredibly similar, it's worth just a quick listen to compare. Which brings us on to the biggest coincidence of them all, the name. One evolving combat, the other evolving survival. Arguably an inspired one, and why not? Halo did indeed set the bar for combat games, reinventing the wheel and defining the very blueprint for a first-person shooter. And still today, after 20 years, it draws in the millions to combat again and again and again. It's not difficult to argue Ark has done the same for the survival genre, proving how to be a successful game of its name. And more than 6 years later is still forever developing and attracting crowds. You will be hard pressed to find another that's achieved as much, and will, I firmly believe, be rubbing shoulders with the very best AAA games with its sequel. And okay, it's a complete cop-out and a void fill as we've made it this far, but if you have, you've probably got a taste for both games, so it's worth showing you Halo is already in Ark, at least in the form of mods. Sadly, since the map's development and cease of support, Shadowcast issues, teleporting and ATV mechanics let this down to be the memory trip it certainly desired. But what it does do, and I hope this video does, is inspires new mods to come to light. The reason why this video exists is because Halo has become a mainstay once again, so hopefully popularity may dictate more community involvement with either this or more mods, or we can just play one or the other. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, comment below, let me know. My name's Ras Clark. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always, peace out.